How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the Black Metal Rebellion. I'm your host, Jesse Morgan, and today we are doing another episode of horror films to watch or avoid. I have 5 horror films, and I think you might enjoy some of them. One of the ones that I've been meaning to get for a while, because it's got Bill Murray in it, and if you liked watching Zombieland, then you'll probably enjoy this one as well. And that is The Dead Don't Die. Now, The Dead Don't Die is this kind of ho-dung town in the middle of nowhere, sort of semi-redneck, hickish kind of town with your dorky sheriff and his deputy and whatnot, and an odd couple of townspeople here and there. And slowly but surely, the dead start coming back to life, and a couple of the characters get offed pretty quickly. They start trying to figure out why they're coming back to life, and the lady that plays the Ancient One from Doctor Strange is in it. She's like this weird kind of mortician, morgue worker person, but also knows the ways of the samurai or some shit. I don't know. Anyway, it's got some kind of hit or miss comedy in this. It's not one of the funnier things I've seen. The comedy's pretty dry. I feel like if you're from the UK or British, you might enjoy this humor a little more. Bill Murray's kind of plain-faced, kind of cynical, stale jokes don't really work for me. It's more out of nostalgia, I think, that I enjoyed this film over anything. The zombies were pretty interesting. The fact that they have to keep reminding each other to kill the head is a little over the top and kind of redundant, but it is what it is. Anyways, it was an alright flick. The fact that the Adam Driver character kind of basically acknowledges that he's in a movie and saying that he read the script in this movie takes you out of it a bit. I know it's mostly just supposed to be kind of like a dark comedy, not really supposed to be taken seriously anyways, but him constantly referring to the script and talking about stuff like that, it just, I don't know, it didn't work for me. Either way, it's an alright movie if you like zombies and kind of dry humor, or that kind of UK British sense of humor. Might be up there with Shaun of the Dead and stuff like that. I could see those guys maybe having a hand in this, even though I know they don't, but I could see that kind of being similar style of comedy. But yeah, it's not as good as I thought it was going to be, unfortunately, so I'm going to have to give it a 5.5 out of 10. The acting could have been better, the characters could have not referred to the script, and then the ending, I'm not going to spoil it, but yeah, not the greatest ending. So yeah, if you're looking for just kind of a semi-humorous, dry wit, dark comedy about zombies, this might do it for you. The Dead Don't Die. The next one is a really interesting one that I kind of got simply because Frankie Muniz is in it, and you haven't seen or heard much of this dude in a while, probably outside of Malcolm in the Middle. I wasn't a big fan of that show, but I do like Frankie Muniz as an actor, so got this. This is called The Black String. The Black String follows the Frankie Muniz character. He seems to be a bit of a manic depressive, kind of slightly sociopathic person who's trying to live a normal life after having a weird stint or something go wrong during his high school years. He now has a daytime job and is kind of working for this gas station place, convenience store thing. He's kind of a loner and only has one friend that works at the gas station, and one night he decides, hey, I'm going to make a call to this hotline and set up a date or an escort. And he goes on the date with the escort, takes her home. He's kind of hesitant about sleeping with her, but then she kind of seduces him, and all seems mostly okay until later on the next day when he discovers that he has this kind of rash on his side and on his arm, and probably downstairs too. Always wear a condom, people. So yeah, so he ends up discovering that he has this rash, and he figures, oh, it's probably just some sort of STD. So he goes to the doctors, and they check it out, and they're like, yeah, we're not exactly sure what this is, but here's some cream, and they send him home, and they're like, you know, always wear a fucking condom, kid. Like, what's wrong with you? So yeah, he ends up telling his friend and what's going on, and he's like, oh, you know, you probably shouldn't have hooked up with a call girl, you probably shouldn't have hooked up with a prostitute or whatever they are. But he's like, well, she wasn't like any normal prostitute or call girl, she was really nice and sweet and blah blah blah. And he tries to make excuses for it, but in the end he ends up discovering that she wasn't just a call girl, she was part of some weird satanic cult, and she was passing on this mark, or dark mark or whatever, onto him via having sex with him, I guess. And he has to figure out via the local kind of magic shop or occult shop that he's got to somehow purge this black string from inside of him and get rid of it, and all this other junk. He runs into a couple of different problems along the way though, and I'm not going to spoil the ending, but it's pretty crazy, and you're not quite sure if what happens at the end is because of his mental disorder or whatever he's going through, or if it's an actual satanic cult, an actual supernatural events. But yeah, this was a really, really good one. Highly recommend checking out The Black String if you can track it down. I got my copy, I believe, through either Amazon or eBay, and it wasn't too much either. I think it was only about 12 or 15 bucks after shipping, so not too terribly bad. And if you want to check it out, definitely get yourself a copy. And it's Frankie fucking Muniz. The rating for this I'm giving it is an 8 out of 10. Really, really good. Highly, highly enjoyed it, and think you would also dig said movie. And if you're wondering, by the way, yes, this is a Dark Crystal shirt. The original movie was pretty sweet. I think I only got like an episode or two into the series, but it seems like they're doing it justice, and I should probably check out the rest of this. But yeah, the next movie is a little interesting. This one is called The Lodge. Now, The Lodge is more of a psychological thriller. There's not too much gore or not too much kind of horror aspects to it. It's kind of one of those ominous, is this actually happening, is it not actually happening kind of films. The wife of this guy and the two kids has passed away, committed suicide, I believe, and now the husband is trying to convince his kids to get along with the new girlfriend. This is casting a terrible shadow. They go up to the lodge out in the middle of fucking nowhere in winter, and everything's not run down, but very minimalistic, very bare bones. They can barely get reception where they are. And I think the girlfriend of the father in this was previously a victim of a cult where she was brought up to believe really weird, strange things, and there was an incident where she had to be saved from the cult. There's some people that were executed because of sinning or something like that, and now she's trying to make a normal life for herself with this guy and his kids. Anyways, I don't think the kids realize that that's what she's been through. They do mention that she's a psycho in this, so I don't know why they try to test her. When the father leaves the cabin to go into town to grab supplies or something. That's a really dumb move in my opinion. The father leaving his two children alone with this person that needs to be on like psychotic medication, and leaving it up to her to take care of the kids, even though she's been a victim of the cult. I don't know. I feel like it's either poor writing or just a really, really bad decision on the father's behalf to leave the kids with this woman. Anyways, the kids don't like her. They're trapped and alone in this cabin while the dad's off fucking around in town, like hours and hours away. And they decide to start playing a prank on their dad's girlfriend and trying to make it seem like the house is haunted, and trying to make it seem like they're actually dead and that they've been dead for a while. So she starts freaking out and starts making decisions based on what she believes is real and kind of going crazy, and it starts triggering her kind of PTSD from being in the cult, and it gets worse and worse and worse. And as you can see from the back of this, she ends up reverting back to that cult mentality. And yeah, The ending is just creepy, and you're left to think, well, fuck, maybe you shouldn't leave your kids with people that need psychotherapy. But yeah, it's all right. It's not the best supernatural thriller or horror movie or whatever you want to call this. Like I said, a psychological thriller. You're meant to be kind of creeped out by it. If your loved one, your girlfriend or your boyfriend isn't really into horror or anything like that, and you want to start them off with something that's kind of slightly creepy, this might do it for you. This might be able to edge them or ease them into the genre. But I'm gonna have to give it a 5.5 out of 10. Also, not really good. If you can pick it up for a cheap price and you just want to add something slightly creepy to your collection, maybe do that. But I wouldn't pay full price for this. Maybe half price at most. I think I might pick this up for $5 in the used bin. But yeah, The Lodge, 5.5. Not all that gory or horrific. All right, the next one was really fucking good. Now, if you know me, I like Jason Blum, I like Leigh Whannell, I like Twisted Pictures, I like Blumhouse, and I also like Universal Monsters and shit like that. So, The Invisible Man, despite being rated fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, I don't give a fuck what Rotten Tomatoes thinks or most critics think. I go see it and I make my own decisions, as should all of you. But The Invisible Man was really, really good. The creep factor is in there the whole time. The not knowing where the husband is going to show up or how or when he's going to strike is pretty neat. The effects for the Invisible Man character is really cool. Like when you start seeing his suit short circuit and start not working right. I like how the suit looks that he's wearing. I like a lot of the creepy kills and the fact that he's messing with her head, and the fact that the family that's looking after her after she escapes her lunatic husband treats her like, he's like, yeah, they want to help, but also they kind of feel like she's a little bit nuts. They're not quite sure of what is actually happening. They know that she's afraid of her ex, but they're not quite sure to the extent of what he's actually capable of or what he's doing. So yeah, there's a lot of psychological thriller elements in this, but there's also a lot of really nice suspense moments. There's some pretty interesting kills, and there's a nice, not twist, but there's a nice kind of justice type moment at the end, and definitely leaves it open for a sequel, because after someone has gone through as much trauma as she goes through in this movie, you can definitely bet there's some wires loose and will probably lead to something else going on in the future of the series. So we might get an Invisible Woman movie or an Invisible Man 2 movie. Hopefully that doesn't spoil it too much for you. But yeah, this was really good. Highly recommend you check it out. If you're a fan of Blumhouse or Leigh Whannell and you like Universal Monsters movies, this is definitely it. Once again, 8.5 out of 10. Really, really good. Check out the new Invisible Man. All right, and the last thing for this horror films to watch or avoid is a classic. And even though it's a classic, I did try to give it a kind of open mind because of how old it is, and I'm almost ashamed to say that I have just recently seen it this year, is John Carpenter's They Live. Yeah, this isn't really a horror movie in my opinion. I know back then it probably would have been considered maybe a horror movie or something, just because of the visuals and some of the violence in it and the weird kind of thrillery, spooky moments. But yeah, this was made back in about 1988, so about 3 years after I was born. And it's definitely a very 80s movie. You can tell by the hair, you can tell by the clothes, you can tell by the cars and just the situation that everyone's in. It's very 80s. Yeah, I could see why a lot of people would praise this movie if you've seen it back then. I could see why a lot of quotes are from this movie. There's a lot of like Duke Nukem kind of quotes that the main character in this makes. Roddy Piper, I guess, the wrestler. Is that who that is? Is that Roddy Piper? Fucking A. But yeah, Roddy Piper, I guess if that's who that is, it makes a lot of really humorous one-liners. it definitely has like that Duke Nukem feel to it. I would love to see a modernized version of this, hopefully done right, hopefully done with better special effects. I mean, the aliens or whatever effects in this is all right for it's all right for the year that it was made and the era that it was made, but now you can tell it's just a rubber mask. It's and the jaws and mouth barely open and shut, but it's a cool concept. It'd be something that would be really interesting to see if it was explored, and nowadays with better technology and better effects. Just I would love to see some sort of last action hero type of lead in this that is spouting off Duke Nukem lines for sure. I don't know who you'd get to do it. If anyone says John Cena, you can fuck right off, by the way. I can't stand John Cena. But yeah, someone would have to spout off some of those one-liners in this. The only critique I have on it that I think is that would be fair is the fight that happens between Roddy Piper and the other construction worker guy that he befriends in this. The fight that goes on between them in the back alley when he tries to get his friend to put on the shades to be able to see these things, because there's some sort of special wavelength blocking shades that allow you to see the aliens for who they are and all their advertising for what it really is. It goes on for, I'm not even kidding, probably a full 10 minutes, like an entire WWF match length fight in this back alley somewhere with just so many body slams and 4x4s breaking over their heads, punching each other to death, and it seems like it goes on forever. It seems like it was unnecessary in the length of the fight. I get that you've got Roddy Piper in your movie, but you don't need to make a WWF length fucking fight or brawl or wrestling match in the middle of your movie. I guess that maybe was some fan service, perhaps, but the fight is just ridiculous. It goes on too long, and then the damage these two take, a little unbelievable, because if you get punched or kicked or body slammed into cement that much, you're going to have a little bit more than just like a swollen cheek and a little bit of blood coming out of your nose. You're going to be fucked up beyond belief. You're going to be foobarred, okay? You're going to be foobarred and then some. And then at the end of it, he finally sticks the glasses on the guy, and he's like, there, see? And then they're friends all of a sudden. You just kicked each other's asses so bad that you're both probably going to need hospital trips, but now you're friends all of a sudden. Okay. No, even if the guy was right, I would still not just be walking away, skipping along, holding hands down the street with the dude, okay? So that's a little unbelievable. Also, another thing that's super duper unbelievable is that it took that long to get the guy to put the shades on. Why would you care? If you believe the guy's crazy, just put the fucking shades on and prove him wrong. But no, the guy has to be super stubborn, and they have to go through that 10-minute long fight just to get the shades on. That was really dumb and unnecessary. But yeah, that's my only complaint about this movie, was probably just that unnecessary fight and the unbelievability of the battle wounds and someone being that stubborn about putting sunglasses on their face. It's about as stubborn as people not wanting to put masks on their face when they go out and grocery shop so you can't cough and get your germs all over people. Anyways, present day problems aside, I'm still probably going to give this a good 7.5 out of 10. Considering the age, considering the technology they had at the time, and considering that minor brawl that took forever, I'd say it's still a pretty decent movie, and it would be really cool to see a modern day take on They Live by John Carpenter. So that's it. That's all for this episode of horror films to watch or avoid. Most of them I'd say watch. The only ones I would say maybe avoid is The Lodge and The Dead Don't Die, but even they have their merits. So if you see them for cheap, like $5 or $6 in a used bin, pick it up. The Dead Don't Die might appeal to more people that have that sense of humor. So if you like the UK British sense of humor and you really liked Shaun of the Dead and that stuff, maybe you'll enjoy The Dead Don't Die a little bit more than me. Let me know what you think about these movies, by the way. Would happily discuss them in the comments section. And yeah, that is it for this one. We will see you in the next video. Cheers for glory, for the Rebel Alliance. Slammerella out. Hope you knew the angle, by the way. I love comedy. Come on, Oshawa.